Hey everyone, this is Know Your Potential, NYP Episode 1, and we'll be taking the time to introduce ourselves and give you a sample as to what this podcast is all about. Welcome to the show.
You're listening to Know Your Potential with David and Phil Ngo, your source for motivational insight and discussion of all things relating to business, technology, and life. We banter and interview like-minded individuals, striving to be the best version of themselves, generate value for society, and achieve the life they want to live.
Hey everyone, it's Phil Ngo here.
And this is David Ngo. Welcome to our show. Thank you for listening. First things first,
elephant in the room. David, go right ahead.
let's talk about it. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, how to pronounce our last name. Growing up, I've had many awkward conversations with people trying to teach them how to pronounce our last name. I've had people pronounce it as Ngo, Nigo, Neo, and as some of you probably are pronouncing it now, no. So after talking to a few friends about this lifelong problem of ours, one of them actually mentioned our last name reminded him a bit of an Italian word, gnocchi. It's not pronounced exactly the same way, but it has similarities. And the closest word that I can think of that sounds to Ngo is gnocchi. So Phil, how do you feel about that?
I feel it's a pretty good way to explain it. I mean, I use the same analogy to talk to our voiceover lady that you heard earlier. And I mean, it's difficult to get it right. So, no big deal.
And the voiceover, it was close enough. It wasn't
Yes.
Ngo, but it was Ngo-ish.
Ngo-ish. Yeah, exactly.
So to anybody listening, our last name is pronounced as one syllable, Ngo, like gnocchi. Close enough.
Yeah, good explanation.
So now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about some of the topics that we'll be discussing in our podcast. Phil, you want to start?
Sure. So what we got in store for you guys is a future episode on blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies. It's a huge hot topic right now. We're getting a lot of questions from you guys, our viewers, about Bitcoin ever since it hit its all-time high. We've been hearing about this all throughout December. So we'll be talking about, what money is, what Bitcoin really is, how to invest, how to store it, the whole bigger picture of what this really means for you and for all of us.
Yeah. And something else we want to talk about is the importance of failure. Albert Einstein once said, failure is success in progress. Just think about that. Nobody likes to fail. Nobody ever wants to fail. But the reality of it is humans learn best through failures. And as important as it is to learn and do things that successful people have done to achieve their goals, you can also benefit greatly by understanding how and why others failed. Think of it as a what not to do cheat sheet.
Awesome. And for the other episode that we have in mind that's coming up is about COVID-19. COVID-19 has completely changed everyone's lives as we knew it in some way, shape, or form. Like many tech companies like Zoom have blown up during this pandemic, while other industries like food, travel, entertainment, hotels have all been struggling because of all the shutdowns. And, even we wouldn't even be able to do this podcast without things like Zoom. So we'll be talking about that shortly in the future as well.
Absolutely. So now that you know what to expect from our podcast, it only makes sense to introduce ourselves. This way you'll have a better understanding of who David and Phil Ngo are, where we've been, what we've accomplished, and what you can expect from us. With that being said, I'll introduce myself first. As you already know, my name is David Ngo. My friends and family know me best as the guy who co-founded a very successful company called Earth-Rated, where we turn dog poop into gold. Figuratively, not literally, of course. To be a bit more specific, Earth-Rated manufactures and sells dog waste bags to over 40 countries worldwide. Our products can be found in over 30,000 stores globally and generating tens of millions in revenue each year right now. I was the vice president from 2009 until my departure last year in 2019, where I decided to step away from the company to pursue other interests and passion projects, but also to be able to spend more time with my wife, Kathy, and two daughters, Athena and Anastasia. Earth-Rated is currently being run by my 4 other business partners and our 40 plus staff in Montreal. They're doing a phenomenal job and have taken the company to levels never seen before. I'd like to give kudos to the whole Earth Rated team and their achievements so far. All to say, you're listening to a guy that has been selling poop bags for the last 10 years of his life. It's not a very glamorous business to be in, and you should see the confused looks I get when I tell people what I do. But at the end of the day, when it's a very successful company that offers a consumable and essential product to pet owners all over the world, nobody ever grows up thinking they're going to sell poop bags for a living. I, for one, definitely would have never thought that. Here's a little background on my childhood growing up so you can have a better understanding of some of the hardships I've gone through to get to where I am today. My parents divorced when I was 4. I'm the second oldest of 5 children. I practically moved every year from the age of 4 until 13 from one family member to another. Eventually, my older brother, when he turned 18 years old and I was 13, we decided to move out on our own. No parents, so he became my guardian. Imagine an 18-year-old brother being my guardian. So that was pretty interesting and fun times for both of us. After moving out, we both had to get jobs to pay for rent and all of our bills. I eventually dropped out of high school after grade 10. I had a bunch of different odd end jobs to make ends meet. I delivered flyers home to home. I was a telemarketer. I was a dishwasher, busboy, sushi chef, and had a few other random jobs also. But my first taste of being an entrepreneur was when I first started my eBay business. I would go to Chinatown and buy my Chinese bootleg DVDs for $3 each, and then resell them on eBay for $10. I did this for a couple of years until I eventually decided to move back to Montreal so I can go to adult ed and hopefully get my high school diploma, which I never got before this. I was in adult ed for no more than a couple of months before I met my future business partner, Abby, through a mutual friend from school. From there, I started working with my business partner and eventually decided to drop out of adult ed again. We eventually started a company called Bulls, where we imported pool tables and other luxury home furnishings. We sold it directly to consumers and also distributed to some stores. But at some point, we realized that we could only sell so many pool tables in Montreal, and we wanted to try something different. So we started a tiny project on the side selling, you guessed it, poop bags. That was in 2009. Eventually, we realized that Earth Rated was a real business with a lot more potential. We decided to sell Bulls, and we took the money we generated from Bulls and the profits and went all in on Earth Rated. Trust me when I say it's no easy task starting a company from the ground up. For the first few years, though we were profitable, we didn't take out any salaries for ourselves, and we were living off of savings, credit cards, and line of credits. We knew every dollar that we reinvested into the company would return back to us tenfold over in the future. So after 11 years of blood, sweat, and tears, we are where we are today. There's no magic bullet to our success. It was just a lot of commitment and sacrifices from everyone since day one. So now that you've heard what I had to say, Phil, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. First of all, like, amazing introduction, David. I'm sure everybody has seen these poop bags at one point or another. They're the green ones with the nice little holder that people put on their leashes and stuff like that. So you've definitely seen these before.
Yeah. You know what it is? It's 11 years of going to trade show after trade show, going to all these different shows, talking to people and promoting the products to getting to where it is today. That's how we have our products everywhere now. Again, there's no magic trick to it. We didn't do anything that was that much more better or special than somebody else. It was really just staying focused on that one product, poop bags, and our goal to become the number one poop bag in the world, which Earth Rated really is the number one selling, best branded and most recognized brand in the world of poop bags. As
That's
silly
amazing.
as it is, it's a silly flex. It's a really weird flex to say that I started a company where we are the number one poop bags company in the world. It's I don't know. it's an interesting line to use, I guess, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, like, to be able to turn a plastic bag into something amazing and recognizable, it goes to say how much work you guys have put into it.
It's a lot of commitment, work, promoting, marketing, branding. After 11 years, we're fortunate enough to be where we are today.
Awesome. Well, that says a lot about being an entrepreneur, because I'm sure all of us have tried many different things, and all you're hoping for is that one business that you were right about. And I'm kind of that guy that likes to try everything as well, and figure out if the role that I'm playing or the company that I'm in is something that I could see myself doing. And that's what I did throughout my 20s as well. So a little bit about me. I went to school for media production at Ryerson University. I worked in the entertainment industry in Los Angeles for a little bit with NBC Casting. But then I also came back to Canada and did some Air Force pilot training before I ended up where I am now, which is in the cryptocurrency and blockchain space. So about late 2013, after doing pilot training, I came back to Toronto, figured out what I'd do next because it wasn't really for me. And, I loved flying, but I didn't like military flying, and I didn't like doing it as a job necessarily. So when I came back to Toronto, I was looking for that next big thing, and kind of moving on from that. Around 2013, the Mt. Gox cryptocurrency exchange, which really was just Bitcoin back then, got hacked. And that kind of intrigued my curiosity. I didn't know anything about Bitcoin back then, or what this hack was all about. But because I have a background in technology, I was really curious about it. Yeah. So I was lucky to be in Toronto. I got involved with early adopters in the space through meetups and accelerators. There was a really good accelerator where a lot of early adopters hung out. It was called Decentral in downtown Toronto. And Anthony Diorio was actually the first person to introduce me to Bitcoin, and told me a bit about it, actually showed me and demonstrated how Bitcoin is sent me my first little bit of Bitcoin. He used to run a company called CryptoKit, which was doing like a browser-based cryptocurrency wallet, which eventually became Jax after that. So through that experience is where I kind of took the initiative to kind of look at Bitcoin, what it was, what it does, and I started tinkering with like mining, was learning how to program as well. So that kind of paved the path for me to get really involved with the Bitcoin and then eventually Ethereum communities in Toronto. And I spent a lot of my time actually educating people about it. It's very interesting because back in that time, it was much harder to convince people about Bitcoin and what it was. Nobody really took us seriously. And
I think even today, it's still kind of difficult to convince some people about Bitcoin, let alone in 2013.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? It's only getting better year by year. And I'm really, really happy to see that. I mean, it is still a very, risky investment. It's very volatile, but, I've been investing into it and providing education about it since around that time. So it's definitely paid off since then. I mean, I bought my first Bitcoin at like $500. I think in 2014 it went as low as like 200.
That's insane. And where is it today right now, Phil?
Oh, it's greater than 30K right now.
That's insane.
This is all United States dollars, and Ethereum is over $1,000 right now. I mean, I got my first one at like $7, and that's how early we were.
But amazing though.
It's amazing because throughout all those years, we've seen all the ups and downs of the industry. So there are good times like right now, but there were also really, really hard times.
Well, yeah, trust me, you got me into, you introduced me into cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, blockchain, also around 2017 at the height of Bitcoin as well. And I got in, there was a big crash after, but again, now we're back up again. So things are looking pretty good for both of us.
Yeah, I mean, like this is what some of the future series of blockchain and Bitcoin episodes will be about, because it really will teach you a bit about, how to value it and what it really is, what you're really buying and stuff like that. So we'll get into that in the future episode. But I'm really glad to see that I'm in this industry. More people are taking it seriously and how far we've basically come along. So not just the investing, the consulting stuff, but I also worked in a startup that dealt with the technology itself, doing, securitized digital assets. So things like securities, stocks, bonds on the blockchain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of where like my focus is right now and sort of how I got there. But I mean, unlike David, I was fortunate to actually grow up in a pretty stable childhood, I would say. Like I grew up with my mom, my dad, older sister. I was always the average kid. My older sister, Natalie, was always, the gifted, smart one with the high marks. And I was kind of the, just the guy bringing home Bs, which is, really like a C or a D in some places. So like, every Asian family, like it's just a stereotype of like, you go to school, get good grades, be a doctor, be a lawyer, accountant, whatever it may be. And I don't think even you or I ended up becoming any of those people. And we actually ended up being like rebels, I guess you could say.
It wasn't our path. It wasn't for us being a good, nice Asian kid, not our thing.
I mean, we didn't follow a typical good, quote unquote, good Asian childhood roadmap, but like we're still doing pretty well for where we are. And
our parents are proud. Our parents, I think your parents are pretty proud of you.
I would hope so.
I think so.
Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, you're making money. Asian families are pretty happy about that.
But then again, you trying to explain to your parents right now, hey, mom and dad, I'm not a doctor, lawyer, or accountant, but I have crypto money. And I don't know if that goes past them or if they know what it is, but I think they're slowly learning now. They're understanding.
Yeah, it's crazy because I can't even explain it to them. It's beyond their comprehension of how this technology works.
For the longest time, Kathy thought it was monopoly, internet monopoly money. She was scared. She was worried. She's like, baby, are you going to get back any of this money? And today it's a real thing now. It's a real thing in 2020, 21 actually now. Yeah,
back in the day, we used to call it magic internet money. Is kind of like, like us little tech nerds, just kind of, it was probably as useful as like, World of Warcraft currency or something like that back then. But yeah, like I didn't like, Chinese school, which a lot of Asian kids go to on a Saturday. I hated learning piano, wasn't a huge fan of math class back in the day. So, I'd say at the end of the day, we all ended up being pretty happy and successful where we are. So I'm kind of happy about that.
I agreed with that point.
Yeah. I mean, like for me, I guess the motto would be, I didn't really have a straightforward plan for what I want to do with my life. And there's a really good saying by Mr. J.R.R. Tolkien from Lord of the Rings. Not all those who wander are lost. And I guess that pretty much defines me. I mean, like I was a child actor. I don't know if you knew that. I was actually in the military since I was 16. And that's where I got a lot of like my tech experience from. I did, tech security related stuff, information systems. I actually worked at an early startup back in the day, like late 2000s for a video streaming service. And then I did media stuff at Ryerson University. So very, very random. But at the end of the day, they all contribute to the skills that I have now. I mean, I rejoined the military at one point, as I said earlier, with pilot training. So, I flew my first solo aircraft at like age 23, which I guess not a lot of people can say they did either.
That's impressive. I don't know how many people have flown an aircraft, let alone at 23 years old, to be honest. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. The Canadian taxpayers trusted me to handle a multi-million-dollar aircraft on my own at age 23. So that means something, right?
No crashes, no damages, right?
Yeah. Not that I caused, at least. Yeah. So, throughout all those years, like I did a lot in that decade. I realized how much of a forward tech thinker I was and pretty much stayed in tech ever since. And I'm actually in Calgary right now with my girlfriend, Steph. She's a resident here in Calgary for pediatric neurology. So
technically a brain surgeon. You're with a brain surgeon.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
That's pretty cool. So we have a brain surgeon and a techie together. Your conversations must be quite interesting.
It's crazy because it's like two different languages sometimes. I don't understand the stuff she's talking about. She doesn't understand what I'm talking about. But I guess for like the viewers, I mean, we both have the same last name, so it's probably important for them to know like who we are in terms of our relationship. David and I are actually cousins. So David's dad and my dad are brothers.
And another fun fact, I actually used to live with Phil and his family as well during my time when I was moving around everywhere. I was with Phil for a good year or so, and we had good times.
Amazing. And you know what? It's great that it's contributed to, the relationship that we have now.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, this
without a doubt.
podcast, yeah, this podcast wasn't something that we had planned. It just kind of turned out that we're both going through a similar situation in our lives,
Yeah.
so it worked out in terms of the timing. So yeah.
Yeah. So when
uh Go
how
ahead,
did it,
David.
you want to tell us how we all started, how we decided to get this started?
Yeah. So how this podcast really started was actually, unfortunately, COVID-19. And, it affected everybody and everything in some shape or form. It was completely unexpected that our grandfather died in his nursing home in early November because of COVID-19, and there was an outbreak in his nursing home. So David came down to Toronto to, help out with the funeral, being a pallbearer, helping with all that stuff to take care of Grandpa. And we had some great discussions during that time. Like, we actually brainstormed a lot and had the discussions about, like how life is short. We get too caught up in things, of our everyday lives. Like, we forget to really enjoy the present and really appreciate living and the gift of life, really.
No, for sure. And you know what? This is especially true because during the last few years of Grandpa's life, he was when after we lost Grandma, he had when he moved into the nursing home, he was a lot more lonelier, less people to talk to, less people were visiting. So I would try to call him frequently just to follow up, see how he's doing, how's everything going. Once in a while, I would ask him to share some stories with me. So again, just to have conversation, but also to really understand and learn him, learn his history a bit better, because at some point I realized he is going to pass, and whatever knowledge or experiences he's gone through, we're all going to lose it unless someone kind of learns and records it, right? So to kind of give you a quick, brief history of Grandpa, he was in Vietnam with his family. Eventually, after the war, all Chinese people got kicked out of Vietnam, so they had to move out from Vietnam and go to Hong Kong. On the way to Hong Kong, there was two boats. One boat with our grandpa and his wife, or our grandma and our whole family on it, and the other boat had my grandma and all of their family and all of her family on it. Unfortunately and sadly, grandma's family's boat capsized, and her parents, her brothers, her sister, her everything, all disappeared that one night, and she had no other family from that day on, and she only had Grandpa and the kids. So from there, I think half the kids moved with Grandpa to Montreal, and the other half, I think they went to the US, right? So Grandpa was pretty much in Montreal, living his life, working hard. He didn't speak the language. He wasn't able to work, didn't know what to do. So our grandpa and grandma, they decided to make Vietnamese food at home and sell it to all the other neighbors and friends and family. And they started that business there. Again, I think that's kind of where we might have gotten our entrepreneurship from, learning and seeing from our grandparents how to make money. I think that definitely affected me in some way. Just again, seeing customers come in, paying money, and our grandparents waking up early and working hard and doing everything they need to do to be able to make money, make ends meet, and to take care of their family. So again, seeing all of this, I learned so much from him. And then at some point also, I asked Grandpa, I'm like, hey, Grandpa, after all these years and you're kind of, getting old now, like, is there anything you want to teach me or tell me about so that I can hopefully learn and live a better life than you did? Not in a rude way, of course. And you know what? He got very sad. He looked at his hands, and then he looked at me and he goes, grandson, if there's only one thing I can tell you about life, is that life passes by really, really, really quickly. Within a blink of an eye, he says, I don't know how I went from being a young, strong man to being an old man sitting here with wrinkly skin, looking at my fingers and looking at my grandson and realizing how much time has passed and how little I've been able to do, how little I've been able to see. I've never been able to travel the world. I've been a very good man taking care of my family and my kids, but I'm getting really old now and I'm going to die soon, and I never got to experience life. Please go out there and live your best life and enjoy it. So hearing that from Grandpa himself, it really, really touched a nerve for me, and it made so much sense. There's so much clarity to it. And I understood being a good, great person your whole life, doing all the right things is fine. But at the same time, don't ever forget your own passions, your own dreams, your own wants, your own needs. It's not a matter of being selfish. It's a matter of, again, living your life, because at the end of the day, it's your life. When you get old and you're on your deathbed, you kind of just have to go back there and think and talk to yourself, hey, am I happy with my decisions and choices I've made in life? And that's really where it comes down, what it really comes down to, I think.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with that. And just from hearing those kind of stories from Grandpa, I mean, when you think about time, time is really the only real scarce asset that anybody has on this earth. I mean, it's limited because you can't create more of it, in the sense that if you're 80 years old, you can't just ask for 20 more years. Like, that's not how life works. It's scarce. You can't, just create more of it. You don't know how much of it you have left either. And Grandpa was a very sound mind when he was in the nursing home, and it seemed like he had at least quite a few years left on him. But you just never know, I guess, like when it's your time. So we completely respect that, and we understand that you listening to our podcast, you're taking time out of your day to listen to us, and we want to create some sort of value in your life, and motivate you in some way to make sure that when we're talking, you totally take something of value out of it, and whatever our discussions, our insights are, hopefully it makes your life better, and to learn to view things in a different perspective. And that's we're, on your stereo system every week to help you in some way.
No, without a doubt. And you know what, again, with all of this, some of the other things we want to help you with or give you advice or our opinions or perspective on, as much as making money is important, learning how to save money, learning how to spend your money, how to invest your money, all of that is just as important as making money. And for Phil, I know you're a strong believer that money is not everything. That's your feeling
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, I mean, like when you think about, like, how do we create more value in your life, it really is more of a question of how do we free your time?
Yeah.
Because if you really value it, I mean, you want to be able to do what you want with your time. And that's what, making money is. That's why we talk about business and entrepreneurship on this podcast, because you need to make money in order to take control of your life. But I totally understand, like, money is not everything, though, because at the end of the day, you can have all the money in the world, but if nobody respects you as a person, or you stole it from other people, that's different. Like, money is only one aspect of a fulfilling life. So we want to create leaders with moral, ethical character as well.
But with money, you can do a lot of cool, fun stuff, though, right? In terms of living a good life, having hobbies or passions that you want to do, all that costs money. So again, so very important to have money so that you can do other stuff, such as anything that you're passionate about, going out to spending more time with your family, being able to take days off of work, being able to go on vacation. All of that stuff is really so important. And it's really, really necessary to set money aside and to plan little small vacations with your family, little small dates or outings with your family, your kids, your friends. All of that is so important, because again, if you have all that money in your bank account, but you're not enjoying life or doing anything you love to do, what's really the point of having all that money? You're just working for numbers to keep going up in your bank account. It doesn't make any sense to me to have all the money in the world and not be able to do the things you love or want to do.
Yeah, totally in agreement with that. And this podcast is to help you optimize your time to be able to make the money you need to do the things that you want. That's why we also discuss things like technology, because the way that I see technology is that it's the more you understand it, the more you know how to use it to optimize your time. And optimizing your time obviously will help you in regards to doing the things that you want, or to make more money, to squeeze making more money into a minute, for example, Zoom. I know you didn't have colleagues. I didn't have colleagues for the past year, David. Like, this is
no, absolutely.
how you change.
For the past year, I haven't had many colleagues to speak with. So again, having Zoom and being able to work with you and talk with you and work on all these different cool things recently, it's been pretty fun and amazing. Having you teach me about so much more about blockchain, cryptocurrency, how to do podcasts, how to do so many other things, while I'm able to share some of my experiences with you. it's been really cool and fun. And this is why doing this podcast is so interesting, that you bring a lot of skill sets to our podcast that I have zero clue about. And I'm sure vice versa as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like in terms of all the business stuff that you've done, like all the management that you had to do and the coordination just to, make sure that people get their poop bags.
But I mean, you flew a jet pilot plane at 23. So that's pretty badass too, right? So I can never use that in my dating profiles or anything. You have that on me for sure.
You know what? It was a great experience. And you know what? It's just one of those skills that you kind of take everywhere with you in the future. So anything that you do in your life is never really a waste if it benefits you in some way. And that's pretty much like how I see that. And hopefully, with this podcast, it can be another one of those things you can add to your life. Like we're all about adding value in your life from our perspective here, right, Dave?
Absolutely. That's what it is. Yeah. We're doing here, just trying to make everybody live a bit of a better life. Take whatever you hear or learn from this podcast, whatever benefits you or whatever you agree with, take it. Whatever you feel doesn't make sense to you or is stupid, just ignore it. One person I think that really, really understood this was Bruce Lee. His martial arts, Jeet Kune Do, was crafted out of the best attributes of many other Kung Fu or martial arts. So what he did was he looked at everybody else's martial arts. He took whatever made sense to him. He applied his own technique and skills to it. And then from there, his martial arts, Jeet Kune Do, was created. So that is really a way of living, I feel also. And that's kind of how we want you to take this podcast as well. Take whatever you want and leave out whatever you feel is not worth it to you. It doesn't make sense to you at all. And, and a good thing, another thing is for all of us, what we want to do is kind of, live our best life, be good. And in some ways, people want to be immortal, right? But I don't think that's ever truly possible. But Bruce Lee did say that the key to immortality is first living a life worth remembering. And that makes so much sense just because, again, if you're just passing through life and not doing anything worth remembering, when you're dead, when you're gone, no one's ever going to talk about you again. But if you're doing something that's worth remembering in the future, people will always come back and say, hey, remember Bruce Lee, how amazing he was and how dedicated he was to the art, how passionate he was. And again, him living his life the way he did allowed the rest of us to kind of look at him and appreciate what he did and also remember all the greatness he brought to us. So again, so important to live your best life, but also a life worth remembering.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, if anybody out there knows the key to actually living forever, please let us know. We'd be glad to have you on our podcast.
Absolutely. You'll be our first guest.
For sure. And I mean, like the other thing that I'm sure everybody else is wondering is like, how the heck did we come up with Know Your Potential as this podcast name?
It was not easy at all. To be honest, we had about a good 40 different names that we were deciding on. From there, we did some small surveys, and then we ended up with a short list finally with only 3 of the podcast names. One of them was Wise Hive. I thought it was a really cool name. The only shitty thing about it was that it was already taken. Some of the things were being used by somebody else, so that one we couldn't really touch, but we liked it a lot, Wise Hive. Another second name that we came up with was Millennial Crisis. So this was actually a play on words between midlife crisis and millennials. So for us, we kind of wanted to go with a podcast where it was talking about people around our age in terms of the crisis we're going through right now, which is the COVID-19 pandemic right now. So everyone's going through a crisis. But at the end of the day, we chose to not go with millennial crisis because we wanted to be a bit more upbeat and less fear-mongering. So that's why we decided to go with Know Your Potential, or some people might be pronouncing as Know Your Potential.
Hey, nice pun. Yeah, it was pretty interesting because like I don't know about you, but I actually came up with that in the shower. I do some of my best thinking there alongside, walking or like cooking.
the best conversations I have is in the shower. My best arguments that I win every single time with anybody is in the shower.
Okay, I'll make sure never to get in an argument with you. I don't want to be in the shower with you.
I practice a lot. I'm practicing in the shower all the time.
Nice, nice. Because it's funny because actually I have a friend named Chris Howe, and I used to actually help him out with some of his stuff, his media company, and it's called Know How Media. Which I found hilarious because it just worked with both our names and it just was a huge pun. And you know, like as you know, our last name really is just a huge pun. That's what it is.
Since I've told people about our podcast name and that we're working on it, you have no idea how many friends I have that are just randomly sending me puns right now. I have a nice little list of puns that need to be used in the future episodes. So if to all our listeners out there, eventually when you start hearing a lot more puns, I'm sorry I had to put it in there because of all our friends helping us out with this. So get ready for those puns.
Yeah, didn't you like have like a survey of a bunch of people who liked it and didn't like it?
Yeah. So we actually did a survey. So the final 3 that we had, we did a survey. We sent it out. I sent it to about 20 people. Phil probably sent it to about 20 more people. We tallied up everything, and then we found something out very interesting, that about half the people did not choose Know Your Potential, and the other half loved it. And as I looked through the list, I realized how come and why. The half that chose or didn't like the Know Your Potential, every single one of them were Asian people. And I noticed that all these Asian people had either similar last names or different, similar last names, or difficult to pronounce last name, all like Ngos, Nguyen, again, a whole bunch of different names that was difficult to pronounce. And it's always made our lives a little bit more difficult, again, in the sense that having to try to explain it to people, putting it on a resume, people kind of look at it and you get teased, you get made fun of. So I think for Asian people, we have a stigma of our last name is a weakness and it's not really a strength. So again, I had this conversation with Kathy and the 2 girls during a meal also. And I told the girls, I don't know if I really want to go with Know Your Potential. Uncle Phil came up with this one. And I think it's kind of silly because no one's going to be able to pronounce it. It's weird. It doesn't make any sense. I don't want to put my Know Your Potential on it at all. And then I heard my daughter, Anastasia, mention, no, Daddy, I like our last name. I'm like, what do you mean? They don't make fun of you? She goes, no, they don't make fun of me. I think it's cool and unique. It sets me apart. So me sitting there at dinner looking at her, I just had an epiphany. I'm like, man, this 9-year-old girl just really showed me something and taught me something. And I decided to say, you know what, let's do the business thing that everybody is taught, learning to turn a weakness into a strength. So that's how we came up and decided to go with Know Your Potential, because again, at first I was so against it, but the more I spoke to people, the more people spoke to me about it. They said, I love it. It's short. It's cool. It's a way to be able to, broadcast your last name, who you are. It's a good way to be proud of your name. And again, they said the puns were endless. So I was sold on that. And David, then finally, we did decide to go with that.
Yeah, exactly. And David, if you think that our last name is complicated, imagine having that going into the military.
There's a lot of different last names that are in the military, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, and for Asian sure. Ones. Yeah. I mean, the thing with Asian last names is that sometimes it just ends up being really derogatory or whatever, just hilarious in the English language, right? like we can use no, which is not a huge problem, but you got all these other Chinese last names like Ho, Dong, Cock, stuff like that.
And the funny thing is, even your dad's first name is written in Vietnamese Phuc, which is pronounced as
fuck.
So you put it together, you have fuck no. Your dad's name is fuck no.
Amazing. It's just like, what, like it generates a great laugh and it's something memorable that people will actually, remember you for.
Absolutely.
Just like when I was in the military, like we actually had a bunch of Asian people at my home units, and we had a guy whose last name was Poon and another guy whose last name was Tang. And obviously these guys were totally meant for each other. Like we turned them into fire team partners. So you got a team Poontang in our units. You got a guy named Ngo like me, and you just throw me in there, and now you got No Poontang as a team.
So in the platoon, you guys were known as Team No Poontang.
Exactly.
That's amazing. Are you still No Poontang right now, or are you getting Poontang?
Well, That's for another conversation. But but I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this though. We were a very effective team because we had no distractions. I'll tell you that. So like, if you're wondering, like the best thing about our last name is that it's easy to spell. It's only 3 letters. It's NGO.
Yeah.
So like when we have our social media handles, when we registered our website, I mean, it's just literally NGO yourpotential.com, right?
Easy.
So easy. And on that site, we actually have the links to all of our other handles and stuff like that. So you can just go there. But we would obviously appreciate that you follow, subscribe to our podcast, wherever you're listening from. We are on Anchor FM / Know Your Potential, NGO Your Potential.
Yeah.
Same with Instagram, same with Facebook. So Instagram.com / Know Your Potential, Facebook.com / Know Your Potential. And the only problem we had was really with Twitter, because I don't know if you knew this, Dave, but with Twitter, your handle can only be a maximum of 15 characters. And so conveniently, Know Your Potential is 16 characters.
Of course, that's just how our life is. It's meant to be. I mean, even with a last name with only 3 letters, you would think that we'd be able to manage to get all of it, but no, we're still missing that 1 letter there. So we need 16 characters. We only have 5. So instead of twitter.com / know your potential, it's twitter.com / know your potential without the L, guys. That's it. If anybody knows Jack Dorsey, hit him up, send him a message, tell him to give us an extra 1 character so we can finish our twitter.com know your potential properly. But until then, it's twitter.com / know your potential.
Yeah. And with YouTube, we need 100 subscribers to get our custom link. So when we're able to do that, you'll hear about it. And so go subscribe to us on YouTube as well, and you can see our pretty faces.
So you can watch this video, you can hear it on our podcast, but again, we're pretty good looking. So definitely come check us out on YouTube and make sure to subscribe so we can get our custom link, please.
Awesome. And I know everybody's just itching to hear about the cryptocurrency stuff. So follow along and you'll be the first to hear when new episodes are published. So with regards to that, cryptocurrency questions, we have been asking people all week, all month to submit their questions that they have for us, and we'll get them answered on a future episode about Bitcoin and blockchain. And
and also for anyone who has been affected by COVID-19, please contact us. Let us know what your story is. Share it with us, and we'll be more than happy to share it with other people, whether it's something positive, negative, how you're able to manage it. Again, we all have different stories with COVID-19, and I think it's really important that we all talk about it because, you know, though we're all in the same situation, the reality of it is we're all in different boats. So contact us, send us some messages, let us know what your stories are with COVID-19.
Definitely. And thanks everyone for listening to our first episode. It's really well appreciated from both David and I, and we will see you next week.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much, everybody. We hope to hear from you soon. Take care, guys.